His best friend took my bridal limo, so I left the ring and took back my life. The bridal limousine left without me 11 minutes before I was supposed to marry Evan Brooks, stood beneath the awning of the Magnolia House Hotel in Charleston wearing a silk wedding gown, holding a bouquet of white roses, and watching the long black car disappear into traffic through the rear window. I saw Lila Monroe turn in the leather seat. She was Evan's best friend. She was also wearing the ivory suit I had asked her not to wear to my wedding. That my phone rang. Evan's name appeared on the screen. Dana, he said before I could speak, don't make this into a crisis. I looked at the empty curb. You sent my limousine away with Lila. Her driver cancelled. She was having a panic attack. So you gave her the bridal car? She needed me. Those 3 words were familiar. Lila needed him when her marriage ended. Lila needed him when her business failed. Lila needed him at midnight, on holidays, and during every important moment that was supposed to belong to us. What am I supposed to do? I asked. Take a rideshare. You're 10 minutes from the venue. Behind me, my wedding coordinator covered her mouth. Evan lowered his voice. Please don't embarrass me in front of 200 people. I removed my engagement ring. Then I placed it in the small envelope holding our unsigned marriage license. Marisol, I said, call the officiant. Evan went silent. Tell him there will be no wedding. The first thing Evan said was not that he loved me. It was not that he was sorry. He said, do you understand how much money we'll lose? I ended the call. For several seconds, I heard only the traffic on King Street and the soft rustle of my gown against the hotel steps. Marisol Vega, the wedding coordinator I had hired 8 months earlier, stood beside the bell captain with her phone in one hand. She was 36, small, quick, and so calm under pressure that I had watched her solve a missing cake emergency while smiling through a bride's family photographs. That morning, her calm had disappeared. Dana, she said, are you sure? No, it was the most honest answer I could give. I looked toward the street where the limousine had vanished. But I'm not marrying him today. Marisol nodded once. Then she began making calls. The ceremony was scheduled for 4:30 at the Middleton Conservatory, a restored glass pavilion overlooking the Ashley River. Guests were already seated. The string quartet had started playing. Evan was waiting in a navy suit beside an altar covered in flowers I had chosen, and Lila was apparently sitting somewhere near him after arriving in the car meant to carry me to my wedding. My younger sister, Naomi, came through the hotel doors carrying my overnight bag. What happened? The limo left. I can see that. Why? Layla needed it. Naomi closed her eyes. Of course she did. She took my bouquet and handed it to Marisol. Then she put both hands on my shoulders. Do you want my car? No. Do you want me to drive you to the ceremony so you can speak to Evan? No. Do you want to go upstairs? I looked at the line of hotel windows above us. Bridesmaids, makeup artists, and photographers still occupied the suite on the 4th floor. I went back upstairs. People would ask questions. They would offer opinions. They would say I was emotional. They would remind me about the guests, the deposits, the flowers, and the 8 years I had invested in Evan. Could already hear his mother telling me that marriage required flexibility. I want to leave, I said. Naomi took out her car keys. Then, let's leave. I turned to Marisol. The flowers and food have already been paid for. Donate whatever can be donated. Let the guests eat if the venue will allow it. What should I tell them? The truth. Her eyebrows rose. Which part? There will be no wedding because the bride has withdrawn her consent. That was the only explanation anyone needed. Marriage required consent, not deposits, not guests, not years together. Consent. Placed the envelope containing the ring and license in Marisol's hand. Give this to Evan. Then Naomi helped me into the passenger seat of her Subaru. My wedding dress filled half the car. As we pulled away, my phone began ringing again. Evan, his mother, Patricia. My daughter, Emma, then Lila. Turned the phone face down. Naomi drove without speaking until we crossed the Ravenel Bridge. Charleston Harbor stretched beneath us, bright under the afternoon sun. Sailboats moved across the water as if nothing unusual had happened. Pressed my hand against the window. I've just cancelled my wedding. Yes. 200 people are waiting. Yes. Some of them flew across the country. Yes. We spent almost $70,000. Naomi glanced at me. You spent almost $70,000. I let him help plan it. That isn't the same as paying. I'm 46 years old, wearing a wedding gown in your car, and running away from my own ceremony. You're not running away. What would you call this? Leaving before you sign the wrong contract. Naomi had always been better at saying difficult things plainly. She worked as an emergency room nurse, which had stripped politeness from her response to obvious danger. Maybe Lila really had a panic attack, I said. Then Evan should have called an ambulance, a friend, or another car. She hates being alone when she panics. She was surrounded by bridesmaids and hotel staff. He's known her since college. Naomi tightened her hands around the steering wheel, and he was supposed to spend the rest of his life with you. I closed my eyes. Evan and Lila had been best friends for 27 years. They met at the University of Georgia during freshman orientation. According to Evan, they immediately recognized each other as two people who would never be romantically compatible but would always understand one another. He told that story often. Sometimes Lila told it with him, finishing his sentences. They dated other people, married other people, and had children with other people. Evan's first marriage ended when his son was 12. Lila's marriage ended 6 years later. Throughout all of it, they remained close. When I met Evan, I was 38 and had been divorced for 9 years. My first husband, Peter, left after admitting he had spent most of our marriage feeling unfulfilled. He married a yoga instructor 14 months after our divorce. Our daughter, Emma, was 15 when he left. Spent the next several years building Whitmore Restoration and Design, the historic home renovation business I had started with a former colleague. By the time Emma left for college, the business employed 17 people and managed projects throughout coastal South Carolina, owned my home, understood retirement accounts. I knew how to negotiate contracts and remove rotted framing from a 200-year-old house without bringing down the roof. Believed I had outgrown the part of myself that confused being chosen with being valued. Then I met Evan, was a commercial real estate broker with an easy smile and an impressive ability to remember details. At our second dinner, he asked how Emma's architecture program was going. At our fourth, he remembered that I hated raw onions. When a storm damaged the roof of my workshop, he arrived before sunrise with coffee, work gloves, and a list of available contractors. I fell in love with his attentiveness, did not understand that attentiveness was a resource he distributed according to urgency. Lila was always urgent. On our 6th date, Evan told me about her. I need you to know she's family, he said. People sometimes misunderstand our friendship. What is there to misunderstand? We talk most days. That doesn't bother me. She has a key to my house. That's unusual. She fed my dog when I traveled. Do you still have the dog? He died 3 years ago. Then why does she still have the key? Evan laughed. You're direct. I restore buildings. Unanswered questions become expensive. He promised to ask for the key back. He never did. At first, Lila welcomed me. She invited me to lunch and told embarrassing stories about Evan's college years. She said I was the first woman he had dated who seemed strong enough for him. I took it as a compliment. Later, I understood the warning hidden inside it. Lila, being with Evan required strength because she intended to remain at the center of his life. The first serious conflict happened during our second Christmas together. Emma was home from college, had invited Evan, his mother, and his adult son, Ryan, to dinner. At 3 that afternoon, Lila called. A pipe had burst in the condominium she rented. Evan left before we served dessert, said he would be gone an hour. He returned at midnight. Why then? Lila's landlord had already shut off the water and placed her in a hotel. What were you doing for 8 hours? I asked. She was upset. You missed dinner with both our families. She had nowhere to go. She had a hotel room. You don't understand what she's been through. That became another familiar sentence. I did not understand the divorce, did not understand the pressure of running her event planning company, did not understand how frightening it was for her son to join the Marines, did not understand panic attacks, loneliness, or the special bond created by nearly 3 decades of friendship. Every boundary I raised became proof that I lacked compassion. every request Lila made became an emergency. When I finally told Evan I did not want her calling after 10 unless someone was in danger, he agreed. The late calls stopped, the early morning messages began. Still, there were good years. That was the part people forgot when a relationship ended badly. Evan was not cruel every day. He helped Emma find her first apartment after college, stayed with me in the hospital when I had my gallbladder removed, cooked breakfast on Sundays and rubbed my shoulders when work kept me at my desk too long. When my business partner retired, Evan helped me evaluate whether I could buy her share. He spoke proudly about my work, told people I had saved more historic houses than the city government. I loved him. That was why I kept treating Lila as a problem to manage instead of evidence to understand. Naomi drove us to her house on James Island. She parked in the garage so the neighbors would not see me climb out wearing a wedding gown. Inside, I changed into gray sweatpants and one of her husband's college tee-shirts. My wedding dress lay across the guest room bed like a body. I folded it carefully, then I sat on the floor beside it. My phone showed 37 missed calls. Emma had left 6 voicemails. Played the first. Mom, where are you? Marisol says you're not coming. Dad says you misunderstood what happened. Please call me before everyone finds out. She called Evan Dad even though he had never legally adopted her. The name began as a joke when she was 19 and gradually became real. Evan loved it, had loved hearing it. The second voicemail came 20 minutes later. Mom, guests are leaving. Grandma Brooks is crying. Evan says you won't answer him. This is humiliating. The third was angrier. You can't end an 8-year relationship over a car. I stopped listening. Naomi sat beside me. She doesn't know the history. She lived some of it. She also loves him. So do I. Naomi rested her back against the bed. Then why aren't you at the venue? I thought about the limousine, not only the vehicle, but the decision behind it. A bridal car is not medically necessary. It is symbolic. The bride waits. The car arrives. It takes her toward the person who has promised to meet her. Evan had taken that symbol and used it to rescue Lila. Then he had told me to arrange my own transportation. I think I finally saw where I would stand in the marriage. I said. Naomi looked at me. Behind her? Wherever I could get a ride. At 6:15, Marisol called. The venue had served the food as an early dinner. Some guests left, others stayed. The musicians had been paid and played for another hour. The flowers would be delivered to 2 nursing homes and a hospice facility the next morning. Evan had refused to take the ring. He said you would change your mind. Marisol explained. Where is it? In the venue safe. Keep it there until my attorney collects it. There was a pause. You have an attorney? I own a business. That makes sense. Did Lila speak to you? She said the transportation issue was an emergency. Was it? Marisol hesitated. I should send you something. A screenshot appeared while we were speaking. It showed a text conversation between Evan and the limousine dispatcher. The first message was sent at 10:47 the previous night. *** change primary pickup to Lila Monroe at the rear entrance. She and I will ride together to Middleton. Bride will use family transportation. ***. The dispatcher asked whether the bride had been informed. Evan replied ***. I'll handle Dana. ***. My entire body became still. It had not been an emergency. The decision was made the night before. What time did Lila's driver cancel? I asked. She never booked one. How do you know? Her name wasn't on any transportation plan. She was originally supposed to ride with the other attendants. Why did the limo company release this to you? I signed the contract and gave them the change authorization. They thought you approved it. Who gave them the authorization? Evan used the wedding account email and the security code. Only 3 people knew the code. Marisol. Evan. Me. Marisol lowered her voice. Dana, there's another message. She sent it. This one came from Lila to the driver that morning. ***. Please make sure the champagne is cold. Evan says today is going to be emotional. ***. I looked at the words until they blurred. The car had not been taken because Lila panicked. She had planned to ride with my fiancé. They had champagne. They expected emotion. The only unplanned part was my refusal to chase them. Save everything, I said. I already exported the messages and sent them to your email. Thank you. Are you going to speak to him tonight? No good. I was surprised, Marisol sighed. I coordinate weddings for a living. People think that means I believe every wedding should happen. What do you believe? A cancelled wedding is cheaper than the wrong marriage. That evening, Evan came to Naomi's house. He rang the bell continuously until Naomi's husband, Paul, opened the door. Evan walked into the living room carrying the envelope I had left with Marisol. He placed it on the coffee table. The ring was inside. So that's it, he asked. I remained in the chair near the window. You plan to give Lila my limousine? His expression shifted. I changed the transportation because she was anxious about the ceremony. Why was she anxious? She knew you didn't want her there. I invited her. You made her feel unwelcome. I asked her not to wear ivory. It was a cream pantsuit. It photographed white. Evan threw up one hand. This is exactly what I mean. You turn everything into rules. The text was sent last night. He stopped moving. Marisol gave me the transportation records. That was private vendor communication. It was my contract. Our contract. The company was paid from my account. There it is. His voice became quiet and bitter. The money. What about it? You paid more, so you think every decision belongs to you? No. I think decisions about how I arrive at my wedding should include me. Layla needed reassurance. You brought champagne. He looked away. That small movement told me enough. Naomi sat at the dining table, pretending to read emails. Paul had gone upstairs to give us privacy, and no one interrupted. Did Lila know you had changed the car? I asked. Yes. So both of you planned this. I planned to talk to you in the morning. But you didn't. You were getting ready. I didn't want drama. You thought sending away the bridal limousine would create less drama? I thought you would ride with Naomi. Naomi wasn't at the hotel until after the car left. Evan rubbed both hands over his face. It was a mistake. No. A wrong turn is a mistake. You entered a code, changed a contract, told the driver not to inform me, and opened champagne. She was scared she was losing me. The room became quiet. I heard Naomi close her laptop. Why would your best friend think she was losing you because you were getting married? I asked. Evan did not answer. I stood. My legs felt stronger than I expected. Go home. Our home? My house. His jaw tightened. We have lived there together for 5 years. The deed is in my name. I paid expenses. You paid half the utilities and contributed an agreed amount toward household costs. So now I'm a tenant? No. You were my partner. Yesterday, you were going to become my husband. Today, I need you to leave. You cannot make this decision without a conversation. We are having one. You are angry. Yes. You don't end a relationship while angry. You tried to begin a marriage while lying. Evan looked toward the ring on the coffee table. Take a few days. I am. Then don't change the locks or do anything dramatic. That was when I knew he believed I would return, not hoped, believed. For 8 years, every conflict had ended after I became tired enough to accept his explanation. Thought this one would too. You need to collect your essential belongings tomorrow, I said. Naomi and Paul will be present. His face hardened. I'm not moving because Lila rode in a car. You're leaving because you put her in my place and expected me to follow. He picked up the envelope. I held out my hand. The ring belongs to me until we decide otherwise. He laughed sharply. You left it. I left it with the wedding coordinator. I did not give it to you. He dropped the envelope onto the table. Then he walked out. My mother called the next morning. She lived in Asheville and had attended the wedding with my stepfather. Her first question was whether I had slept. Her second was whether I was certain. I know canceling publicly was painful, she said. But marriage doesn't repair patterns. It makes them harder to leave. I had expected her to urge reconciliation. Instead, she told me something she had never said before. Your father missed our 10th anniversary dinner because a woman from his office needed help moving. My parents divorced when I was 12. I knew my father had been unfaithful, but I had never heard that story. Were they having an affair? Not then. Why did you stay? He convinced me the problem was my jealousy. I closed my eyes. Did it become an affair? Yes. When? After years of me being told their closeness was innocent. My mother's voice remained steady. I'm not saying Evan and Lila are sleeping together. I'm saying you don't need proof of sex to decide a relationship has no room for you. After we hung up, I called Grace Chin. Grace was the attorney who handled contracts and property matters for my business. She was 52, practical, and incapable of pretending a complicated problem would become simple through positive thinking. When I told her the wedding had been cancelled, she said, "Congratulations." I stared at the phone. What? You made a difficult decision before signing a legal document. Everyone else says I ruined my wedding. Those people are confusing an event with a marriage. I told her Evan had lived in my house for 5 years. We need to review whether he could claim any ownership or reimbursement interest, she said. South Carolina does not recognize common law marriages formed after 2019, but financial contributions can still create disputes. We signed a cohabitation agreement. Good. You drafted it. Even better. The agreement stated that my home remained my separate property. Evan's monthly household payments were not mortgage contributions and did not create equity. Personal property remained separate unless jointly purchased. The wedding account was supposed to pay only wedding-related expenses. What is the balance in that account? Grace asked. I don't know. Check. The account should have held approximately $41,000 after all outstanding vendors were paid. Opened the banking app. The balance was $12,609. Refreshed the screen. The number remained. There's almost $30,000 missing. When was it withdrawn? I opened the transaction history. 3 transfers totaling $28,500 had been sent during the previous 2 months to a business called Harbor Light Experiences. Recognized the name. Lila had formed Harbor Light after her first event company, Monroe and Finch, collapsed. What did Evan tell you Harbor Light was doing for the wedding? Grace asked. Welcome bags and the rehearsal dinner. How much were those services supposed to cost? About $7,000. Then we need invoices. The transfers were authorized using Evan's joint account credentials. Because both our names were on the account, the bank had not flagged them legally. He had access. That did not make the use proper under our written agreement. I called Dana Peterson, my accountant, not to be confused with me, though people regularly joked about it, and asked her to review every transfer connected to the wedding. By noon, she had identified additional charges. Harbor Light received another $9,000. Through my business credit card, the descriptions included design consultation, vendor logistics, and temporary staffing. My company had not hired Harbor Light. Evan had submitted the charges as expenses related to a historic property launch event we were planning for the fall. The event existed. Lila's role did not. What did the money pay for? I asked. Dana was quiet. We'll need records from Harbor Light. What can you tell now? 2 payments went directly toward a commercial lease deposit. Lila had been trying to open an event showroom and planning studio in downtown Charleston. She had mentioned it during dinner months earlier. Evan praised the idea, advised her to build more cash reserves before signing a lease. She said I did not understand creative businesses. Apparently, she signed anyway, using our wedding money. The smaller reveal was no longer about a limousine. Evan had been financially supporting Lila with money I provided for our marriage, froze the wedding account after. Grace confirmed it would not violate any pending vendor obligations. Then I removed Evan as an authorized user on my business cards and changed every company password he might know. Grace arranged for a locksmith to meet me at the house, returned with Naomi. The home was a restored 1890s property near Hampton Park. I bought it 11 years earlier, when broken plaster and water damage kept most buyers away. Spent 4 years restoring it room by room. Evan moved in after the work was nearly complete. He often called it our house, had encouraged that language because I wanted him to feel at home. Now his clothes filled my closet, his books lined the study walls. His coffee mug sat in the dishwasher. A relationship can occupy every room without owning a single wall. Evan arrived at noon with his son, Ryan. Ryan was 30 and worked as a physical therapist in Atlanta. He had flown in for the wedding and looked exhausted. "I'm here to help Dad pack," he said. I stepped aside. Evan stopped in the entryway. "You changed the alarm code?" "Yes." "You couldn't wait 24 hours?" "I found the harbor light transfers." His shoulders lowered slightly. Ryan looked at him. "What transfers?" "Private business," Evan said. $28,500 from the wedding account, I said. "Plus $9,000 charged to my company." Ryan stared at his father. "You gave Lila $37,000? "It was a bridge loan." "From Dana?" "From a joint account." "For our wedding," I said. Evan looked at me. Harbor Light was providing wedding services. $7,000 in services. The rest was an advance against future events. "Which future events?" "Projects connected to Whitmore restoration." "I never hired her." "You were going to." "No, you liked the showroom concept." I said the location had potential. "That was not authorization." Ryan stepped away from his father. "Did Lila know where the money came from?" "She knew I was helping her." "That's not what I asked," I said. Evan's hand tightened around the handle of his suitcase. "She knew we had resources." "We?" He closed his eyes. "The money would have been repaid." "When?" "After her financing closed." "What financing?" He looked toward the dining room. I knew that expression. Was building an answer. "Evan." "She applied for a small business line of credit." "Who guaranteed it?" "No one yet." The final word landed badly. "What does that mean?" "The lender wanted stronger financial backing." "Did you give them my information?" "No." "Did you give them information about my company?" He did not answer. Ryan whispered, "Dad." Evan placed the suitcase on the floor. "I gave them a partnership proposal." "There is no partnership." "It was preliminary." "Show it to me." "I don't have it here." "Then send it to Grace." "You brought your attorney into this already?" "You brought my business into it." His face changed. He had expected the missing money to become an emotional argument. He had not expected documentation. Ryan looked at me. "I'm sorry. This isn't your fault." He looked at his father. "Pack your things." Evan turned toward him. "You don't understand the situation." "I understand enough." For 2 hours, they packed clothes, personal files, sports equipment, and family photographs. He created a written inventory. Evan complained that it was unnecessary. Grace insisted. When he reached the study, he pointed to an antique partner desk. "I paid to have that restored." "The desk belonged to my grandfather." "I paid the restoration invoice." "You gave it to me as a birthday gift." He said nothing. The note that came with the gift remained in my desk drawer. *** for the woman who restores everything except herself. Love, Evan, ***. I had once thought the sentence was poetic, now it sounded like an expectation. EY3. His belongings filled Ryan's rented SUV and a moving van. At the front door, Evan turned. "Are you really throwing away 8 years?" "No, what would you call this?" "Refusing to give them a ninth." He left. Emma arrived 20 minutes later. My daughter wore the navy dress she had chosen for the wedding reception. She had not changed because she had spent the night at Evan's mother's hotel suite, helping relatives rearrange travel. She walked into the living room and saw the empty spaces on the bookshelves. "You moved him out." He collected his belongings. "Without talking to me?" "You're 24, Emma. I don't need your permission to end my engagement." "No, but you could have considered what this does to everyone." "Who is everyone?" "Ryan. Grandma Patricia. Me. You're allowed to keep relationships with them." "That isn't the same." "No." She folded her arms. "Evan says you're accusing him of stealing." I'm reviewing transfers he made. He loaned money to Lila from the wedding account. He planned to replace it. With what? His commission. Which commission? Emma looked away. You don't know. He said a commercial deal was closing. Did he tell you he gave Lila information about my company? He said you were going to work together. I was not. Emma's anger shifted into uncertainty. I hated seeing it. Evan had been a father figure during some of the most important years of her life. She had trusted his judgment when she chose graduate schools and negotiated her first job offer. Learning he lied to me threatened her memories too. You canceled the wedding before you knew about the money, she said. Yes. So the money isn't the real reason. No, what is? I sat on the sofa. The reason is that Evan planned to take Lila in my bridal car, hid it from me, and expected me to find another way to reach him. Emma shook her head. It was transportation. It was a decision. You could have gone to the venue and confronted him. I did confront him. Over the phone. He told me not to embarrass him. And instead you canceled in front of everyone. I withdrew my consent before the marriage. She stared at me. Do you hear how cold that sounds? Yes. The word surprised her. I also know what the alternative would have been. I would have arrived late, walked toward him while he waited beside the woman he had just chosen over me, and spent the ceremony proving I was easy to humiliate. Emma's face softened for 1 second, then she looked away. I need time. So do I. She left without hugging me. That night was the first time I slept alone in my house in 5 years. Expected relief. Instead, every sound felt unfamiliar. The refrigerator clicked. A branch brushed the upstairs window. The old heating vent expanded with a metallic pop. I lay awake thinking about the wedding reception. Guests eating food beneath floral arrangements meant for a marriage that never happened. Imagined Patricia crying. Imagined Lila explaining her panic attack. Imagined Evan walking from table to table, telling people I had always been difficult. At 2 in the morning, I opened my phone. Lila had posted a photograph before the ceremony was cancelled. She and Evan were sitting inside the limousine, was looking out the window. She was holding a champagne glass. Her caption read ****, some friendships are the home you return to, no matter where the road leads. ***, the post had been deleted. Emma had taken a screenshot. She sent it without a message. I stared at Evan's expression. He did not look joyful. He looked tense, but he was there. He had made the choice. The next morning, Grace called with news about Lila's loan application. Harbor Light Experiences had applied for a $240,000 business line from Atlantic Coastal Bank. The application described Whitmore Restoration and Design as a strategic equity partner. It included a projected 2-year service contract between my firm and Harbor Light worth $360,000. The contract carried my electronic signature. I never signed that. I assumed not. Where did they get my signature? Possibly from an existing vendor agreement. Who submitted it? The application contact was Evan. I sat at the kitchen table. The sun reflected through the leaded glass windows I had spent months restoring. Did the bank approve the loan? Conditional approval. They were waiting for proof that you and Evan were married and confirmation of the service contract. My skin turned cold. Our marriage certificate? Yes. The wedding was not only personal, it was part of the financing package. After we married, Evan planned to use our relationship as evidence that his authority to speak for my company was legitimate. Did Lila know the contract was fake? We don't know. What happens now? I notify the bank immediately. We preserve the application and request a fraud review. Will they call the police? Possibly. But first they'll protect themselves. I thought about the limousine authorization, the wedding account, the corporate charges, the loan application. Each action had been described as preliminary, temporary, or practical. Together, they formed a plan. Grace, I want everything documented. It will be. I don't want to threaten them. Good. Why is that good? Because you don't need threats when you have evidence. Evan called that afternoon. I answered with Grace listening on another line. You contacted the bank, he said. Yes. You destroyed Lila's financing. The application used a false contract. It was a projection. It had my signature. You authorized me to develop partnerships. I did not authorize you to sign my name. I didn't sign it. Who did? Silence, Evan? Layla's assistant prepared the documents. That wasn't my question. I approved the application package. Knowing the contract was not real? It was going to become real after the wedding. You planned to force my company into a $360,000 contract after we married? Force? His voice rose. I spent years bringing opportunities to your business. You are a commercial real estate broker. You were not an officer of my company. You asked for my advice constantly. Advice is not authority. There you go again. Every contribution I made disappears because the paperwork has your name. The paperwork has my name because I own the company. You were willing to spend $70,000 on a party but wouldn't invest in Lila's business. The wedding was our choice. Your choice. I heard the resentment clearly, did not resent the cost of the wedding, resented that I had the power to pay for it. Did Lila know the contract was false? I asked. It wasn't false. Did she know I had not approved it? He did not answer. Did she know you transferred the wedding money? She knew I was investing. Your money? Our money. The account agreement limits use to wedding expenses. That agreement was between us. Yes. And now you're turning it into a legal weapon. No. You turned it into evidence. He exhaled slowly. Meet me tomorrow. Grace will arrange it. I don't want attorneys. I do. You're making reconciliation impossible. I almost laughed. Do you want reconciliation? I want you to calm down. That isn't the same thing. I want to postpone decisions until we can think clearly. You had months to think before submitting the loan application. He lowered his voice. Dana, I love you. I closed my eyes. There it was, the sentence I had waited to hear on the hotel steps. Now it arrived after the bank intervened. I believe you love what I make possible, I said. That is cruel. It may be. Lila was right. About what? That you never trusted either of us. The call ended. Grace stayed silent for a moment, then she said, people who misuse trust often become offended by its absence. Our first formal meeting took place 3 days later at Grace's office. Evan arrived with an attorney named Samuel Pierce. Lila came with her own lawyer, had not expected to see her. She wore a navy dress and no makeup. Without the careful presentation she usually maintained, she looked tired and older than 47, sat around a walnut conference table. Grace began by reviewing the issues, the wedding account transfers, the corporate card charges, the false service agreement, the bank application, the limousine records. Evan's attorney objected to including the transportation issue. It is not relevant to the financial dispute. It explains when my client discovered the broader misconduct. Grace said. Lila stared at me. You think I stole your limousine? You instructed the driver to pick you up. Evan changed the plan. You knew I had not been told. I thought he was handling it. You brought champagne. Her expression tightened. I was nervous. Why? Because you had made it clear you resented my presence. I invited you to my wedding. You tolerated me. I asked you not to wear ivory. It wasn't a wedding dress. No. It was only the exact color of mine. Samuel Pierce interrupted. This conversation is not productive. I turned to Lila. Did you think I would still come? She looked at Evan. He did not look back. Yes, she said. Why? Because you always did. The answer was quiet, honest, more painful than denial. You knew he would choose you. I said. I knew he wouldn't abandon me because you felt threatened. I was the bride waiting for transportation. You had other options. So did you. Lila pressed her lips together. I continued. You could have ridden with the attendants. You could have called a car. You could have asked the hotel for help. Instead, you took the bridal limousine with the groom. I did not take Evan. No. He went willingly. That distinction mattered. Lila had manipulated situations, she had accepted my money, she had participated in the false loan application, but Evan had made his own decisions. Blaming only her would have allowed him to remain the helpless man between two demanding women, was not helpless, was the person who benefited from both. Grace placed the false service contract in front of Lila. Did you know Ms. Whitmore had not signed this? Lila looked at her lawyer nodded slightly. I believed Evan had authority to negotiate on her behalf. That was not the question. Lila's hand tightened around a water glass. I knew she had not personally signed it. The room went quiet. Who added my signature? I asked. My office manager used a copy from a prior contract. Under whose instruction? Lila looked at Evan. His face remained still mine. She said. Evan turned toward her. Lila. You said Dana would approve it after the wedding. I said we had an understanding. You said the signature was a formality. Samuel Pierce told his client not to speak. Lila continued anyway. You said once you were married, she would not risk humiliating you by withdrawing. The strongest part of the plan became clear. Evan never intended to ask me before the wedding, intended to make refusal more expensive afterward. Marriage certificate signed, loan conditions satisfied, Harbor Light lease active. Wedding money already transferred. My company publicly linked to Lila's business, believed I would protect the marriage by accepting the decision. You used the wedding as leverage, I said. Evan's attorney answered. My client disputes that characterization. I looked at Evan. Do you? He met my eyes. I was building something for all of us. Who is all of us? You, me, and Lila. The sentence hung in the room. Even Samuel Pierce looked uncomfortable. Lila stared at Evan as if she had expected a different answer. I leaned back. There was the marriage he had planned. Not a partnership between two people. A structure where I supplied stability, Evan supplied authority, and Lila supplied need. What was my role? I asked. Evan rubbed his thumb against the edge of the table. You were the investor. Did I receive equity in Harbor Light? We had not finalized ownership. Was my company guaranteed repayment? The loan would cover repayment. Was the loan personally guaranteed? He hesitated. By Lila and me. With what assets? We were working on that. Grace opened another document. The bank application identifies Ms. Whitmore's home as supporting collateral. I turned toward Evan. My house? It was a proposed secondary guarantee. The house is my separate property. After marriage, we would have discussed refinancing. You listed it before discussing it. It was a planning document. That is your answer for everything. Plans were not real until they succeeded. Signatures were formalities. Money was temporary, authority was implied, consent would come later. His entire defense depended on the belief that the future would forgive the present. Grace stated our position. The wedding account transfers and corporate charges had to be repaid. Harbor Light must withdraw all claims of partnership with my company. The bank application would remain part of its fraud investigation. Evan had to confirm in writing that he held no interest in my house or business. In exchange, we would attempt to resolve the financial issues civilly without filing an immediate lawsuit. Lila's lawyer asked for 2 weeks to review records. Evan looked at me. You're going to sue me over $37,000? No, what do you call this? Stopping you before the number became $360,000. He stood. His attorney told him to sit. He ignored the instruction. You don't care what happens to Lila. That is true. Lila flinched. I continued. I care what happens because of actions taken in my name. I do not accept responsibility for rescuing her. Evan shook his head. You never understood friendship. Perhaps not. I thought friendship was supposed to survive without taking the bride's car. The meeting ended without agreement. The bank froze Harbor Light's loan application. The commercial landlord gave Lila 30 days to replace the financing or terminate the lease. She had already spent most of the wedding account money on the deposit, renovations, insurance, and equipment. Recovering it would not be simple. Grace filed a civil claim against Harbor Light and Evan for the unauthorized business card charges and breach of the wedding account agreement, also requested an injunction preventing them from representing my company as a partner. The judge granted the limited order quickly because the false service contract was clear. Harbor Light removed my company's logo from its website. The bank ended the financing review. Without the loan, Lila could not complete the showroom. Her landlord kept part of the deposit and released her from the remaining lease after she agreed to vacate. Evan covered some of the loss from his personal savings. That fact emerged through settlement records, had more than enough money to hire a separate car on the wedding day, had more than enough to loan Lila money from his own account, used the wedding fund because using mine protected his savings. When I learned that, I sat in Grace's office for several minutes without speaking. The amount was not enormous compared with my business revenue, but the choice revealed the structure of our entire relationship. My resources were shared, his were protected. He says he planned to replace the money after a property commission closed. Grace said, "Did it close?" "Yes." "How much was the commission?" "Approximately $92,000. "Did he repay the account?" "No." "What did he do with it?" "Paid taxes, legal fees, and part of Lila's lease obligation." I looked out the window. So even after the wedding was cancelled, he still chose her business. Yes. That answer should have devastated me. Instead, it brought relief, had not destroyed a healthy relationship through one emotional decision, had interrupted a plan that continued even after its consequences became clear. Emma remained distant for nearly a month, then she asked to meet for lunch, chose a small restaurant near her office. She arrived carrying a tablet. "I want to show you something." The screen displayed messages between Evan and Emma from the week before the wedding. Evan wrote ***, "Your mom is nervous about the financial side of marriage. After the wedding, I need you to encourage her not to separate everything. A family can't function when one person controls all the money." Emma replied ***, "She earned the business. Why would she give up control?" Evan answered ***, "Not control. Partnership. Lila's showroom is part of the larger plan, but Dana gets defensive when she thinks she is being asked for money. Once we are married, she'll see it differently." Emma looked at me. "He was preparing me to pressure you." "Yes. I didn't understand that." "I know. There's more." Another message was sent the night before the wedding. Lila is emotional about the ceremony. I changed transportation so we can talk privately. If Dana gets upset, keep her calm and get her to the venue. She will listen to you. My daughter's eyes filled. He made me part of it. Did you agree? I said I didn't want to be in the middle. What did he say? That families do things they don't enjoy. She turned off the screen. I'm sorry, I told you the wedding was only about a car. You were trying to hold together something you thought was your family. It was my family. It still can be, in a different form. She looked at me. Do you hate him? No, the answer surprised both of us. I hate what he did. I hate how long I ignored it. But hating him would keep him in every room. Emma reached across the table. I took her hand. I'm sorry I made you feel like choosing yourself meant abandoning me, she said. You were hurt. So were you. We sat quietly, then she asked, what are you going to do with the wedding dress? I don't know. You should sell it. I'll get a fraction of what I paid. Then cut it up. I laughed. That sounds violent. Not violently. Turn it into something. What? She shrugged. You restore things. The wedding dress remained in my guest room closet for 6 months. I could not wear it. I could not sell it. I could not throw it away. Then one of my clients, a non-profit director named Celeste Martin, visited the house to discuss restoration work on a transitional housing facility for women leaving unstable homes. She noticed the garment bag. When I told her what it contained, she said her organization worked with a sewing cooperative that transformed donated formal wear into baptism gowns, burial garments for infants, and accessories sold to support emergency housing. Stood beside the closet. I don't know whether I can donate it for burial gowns. Celeste nodded. that is understandable. I wanted the dress to represent a beginning. It still could. 2 weeks later, I donated it. I kept one small strip of silk from the inner hem. The rest became things I never saw, that felt right. Not every transformation needed to remain visible to me. The civil case ended through settlement 10 months after the cancelled wedding. Harbor Light and Evan agreed to repay the full wedding account transfers and business card charges, because Lila's company lacked cash. She paid part through the surrender of equipment and part through a 3-year payment plan. Evan paid the larger share immediately. He signed a statement acknowledging he had no authority to bind my company, pledge my home, or sign documents in my name. The bank chose not to pursue criminal charges after the application was withdrawn before funds were released and restitution arrangements were established. Lila's office manager participated in a diversion program for copying my signature. She later wrote me a letter saying Evan and Lila told her I had already approved the partnership. I believed she had been careless. I also believed she had been used. Those truths could exist together. Evan lost his position at the commercial brokerage after the bank notified his employer about the false representations. Was not permanently barred from real estate. He joined a smaller firm several months later. His reputation narrowed. So did his income. Patricia blamed me. She wrote that one mistake should not destroy a man's career. Did not answer. The mistake she described required months, several documents, 3 transfers, and a planned wedding. Evan and Lila did not begin a romantic relationship after our engagement ended. At least, not immediately. That surprised people. Several friends assumed they had always been secretly in love. The truth was less romantic. Lila wanted permanent priority. Evan wanted permanent dependence. Those needs fit together as long as another person absorbed the cost. After the financing failed, their friendship became strained. Lila blamed Evan for promising authority he did not have. Evan blamed Lila for admitting she knew I had not approved the contract. They stopped speaking for several months, then they reconciled, then stopped again. Learned about the pattern through Emma, who still spoke occasionally with Ryan. Asked her not to provide updates unless something affected me legally. Their relationship was no longer my story. The hardest consequence belonged to Emma and Ryan. They had become close during the years Evan and I were together. After the cancelled wedding, they felt pressured to choose sides. I told Emma she did not have to abandon Ryan. Evan told Ryan that Emma had helped me collect evidence. For a while, the young adults avoided each other. Then Ryan called me. "I'm sorry my dad did this," he said. "You don't owe me an apology. I helped him move into your house. That was years ago. I encouraged you to marry him. You believed he loved me." "He did." The answer was immediate. I waited. Ryan continued. "He also thought loving someone meant they should make his life easier." "That sounds accurate." "He says you made him feel unnecessary." "He was necessary. He just wasn't entitled to authority he hadn't earned." Ryan was quiet. "I'm trying not to become him. The fact that you are asking questions helps." He and Emma gradually repaired their friendship. They were not siblings, not legally, but family relationships do not disappear because 2 adults fail to marry. Some survive in new shapes. A year after the wedding, Marisol invited me to coffee. She brought a small box. Inside was the strip of ribbon originally meant to tie my bouquet. "I kept it by accident," she said. I touched the pale green fabric. "What am I supposed to do with it?" "Whatever you want." "Did you keep souvenirs from every cancelled wedding?" "You were my first." "I'm honored." She smiled, then she became serious. "Can I ask something?" "Yes." "When you handed me the ring, were you hoping Evan would follow you?" The question was uncomfortable because the answer was yes, not consciously, not entirely, but some part of me expected him to leave the venue, find me, and say he understood. Thought canceling the wedding might finally make my pain urgent enough to outrank Lila's. Instead, he stayed. He explained my behavior to guests. He protected Lila. He tried to preserve the business plan. "No," I said at first. Then I shook my head. "That isn't true." Part of me hoped he would choose me after I left. Marisol nodded. "When did that hope stop?" "When I realized I didn't want to be chosen, only because I made leaving expensive." We finished our coffee. I took the ribbon home. For months, it sat in a drawer. Eventually, I tied it around the handle of an old brass key from my first restoration project. The key no longer opened anything. Framed it above my desk with a small plaque **** access is not ownership ****. The phrase applied to buildings. A T also applied to people. My business changed after the wedding. Not because the cancelled ceremony made me work harder, had already worked hard enough. IT changed because I stopped giving free strategic advice to people who treated my expertise as a family resource. I formalized consulting agreements, required written approvals, separated friendship from vendor relationships. Some people said I had become rigid, and why employees said decisions became clearer. Dana Peterson, my accountant, no longer had to ask whether an expense belonged to the business or to someone I loved. Clarity gave everyone room to breathe. I also reduced my hours. For years, I worked late because being useful made me feel secure. If I solved enough problems, people would need me. Evan had not created that belief, he had benefited from it. Began leaving the office by 6. I joined a Saturday kayaking group, took pottery classes and produced several bowls that leaned visibly to one side. I kept them. Not everything needed restoration. Some things were allowed to be imperfect and complete. 2 years after the cancelled wedding, my company received a preservation award for restoring a 19th-century schoolhouse into a community arts center. The ceremony took place at the Middleton Conservatory, the venue where I was supposed to marry Evan. When the invitation arrived, I considered declining. Then Emma said, "You can't let one day own an entire building." She was right. I attended wearing a dark green dress. Naomi came with me. Marisol was coordinating the award ceremony. When she saw me, she smiled. This time, I arranged backup transportation. I drove myself. Even better. The glass walls reflected the evening sky. The altar was gone. Rows of chairs faced a stage where photographs of restored buildings appeared on a large screen. Stood in the same room and felt no ghost of the bride I had almost been, not at first. Then I noticed the side door where Evan and Lila had entered after taking the limousine. A memory moved through me, sharp, brief. I let it pass. When my name was called, I walked to the stage. The presenter described my work, my company, and the restored schoolhouse. No1 mentioned Evan, and 01 called my achievements ours. Accepted the award in my own name. Afterward, a man named Thomas Hale approached me near the bar. Was 50. A structural engineer who had consulted on the schoolhouse project, had met dozens of times, but always across construction drawings and inspection reports. "Congratulations," he said. "Thank you. You look less terrifying without a hard hat." I work hard to maintain professional consistency. He smiled. "Would you like to have dinner sometime?" The directness surprised me. "Are you asking as a structural consultant?" "No, then I need a moment to adjust." "Take as many as you need." That answer made me say yes. Our first dinner lasted 2 hours. Thomas was divorced, had one adult daughter, and disliked emotional games because, as he put it, buildings are already complicated enough. When his former wife called during dinner about an issue involving their daughter's car, he looked at the phone. "Do you mind if I answer?" "Of course not." He spoke for 3 minutes, agreed to send a mechanic's number, and ended the call. Then he placed the phone face down. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yes." "The car isn't." He did not leave. He did not turn the problem into a test of my compassion. He answered, helped, and returned. That ordinary balance felt unfamiliar. Dated slowly. For the first 6 months, Thomas never entered my home without knocking. Even after I gave him a key for emergencies. "You can use it," I told him. "I know." "Then why knock?" "Because having access doesn't mean I should surprise you." The first time he said it, I looked toward the framed brass key above my desk. "Did Emma tell you to say that?" "No, Grace?" "Should I be worried that several people train men before they speak to you?" I laughed. A year later, Thomas and I traveled to Savannah for a weekend. At the hotel entrance, a black limousine waited near the curb. A bride stepped out with her father. She looked terrified and happy. Watched until she entered the lobby. "You okay?" Thomas asked. "Yes." "You don't have to be." "I know." That was one difference between my life with him and my life with Evan. Thomas did not need my feelings to be convenient, only needed them to be honest. Emma became engaged the following spring. Her fiancé, Marcus, was a public school music teacher she met through friends. Before they booked anything, She invited me to dinner. We want a small wedding, she said. How small? About 60 people. Do you need help? Yes, but I want to ask correctly. I smiled. There isn't a formal application. There probably should be in this family. She opened a notebook. We can pay $12,000. Marcus's parents offered $5,000. Would you be willing to contribute $10,000? Yes. Without choosing the venue? Yes. Without controlling the guest list? Yes. Without using it to demand holiday access forever? That seems excessive. Emma laughed, then she became serious. If you say no later because something changes, we'll adjust. I won't say no after promising, unless the terms change. She nodded. Clear terms. Clear terms. They married in a small garden behind a local museum. The hotel was 5 minutes away. On the wedding morning, Emma's transportation company called to say the vintage car she booked would not start. For 1 second, everyone in the bridal suite went silent. Then Emma looked at me. I expected panic. Instead, she laughed. We are not doing this story again. Marisol, who had agreed to coordinate one more Whitmore family wedding, ordered 2 standard sedans, offered my car. Emma shook her head. You're riding with Naomi. Are you sure? Yes. I'm the bride. I can arrange my own transportation. She arrived at the garden on time. Marcus waited beneath an oak tree, and one had taken her car. One had turned her ceremony into a test. She walked toward him because she wanted to. During the reception, Evan appeared near the garden gate. He had not been invited. Ryan stood with him. Emma saw them before I did. She crossed the lawn and spoke to Evan privately. After several minutes, she returned alone. What happened? I asked. He wanted to congratulate me. Why didn't he come inside? I told him today wasn't the day to repair our relationship. I studied her face. Are you okay? Yes. You could have let him stay. I know. Did you want to? She looked toward the gate. Part of me did. But I didn't want the rest of the day to become about managing his feelings. I took her hand. You learned faster than I did. I had a good example. She kissed my cheek and returned to her husband. Evan waited near the parking lot until the ceremony ended, then he left. That was the last time I saw him for almost 2 years. Met again at Patricia's funeral. She died unexpectedly after a stroke. Emma and I attended because she had been part of our lives for 8 years. The service took place in a Methodist church outside Atlanta. Evan stood beside Ryan near the front. His hair had gone gray. He looked thinner. Lila was not with him after the service. He approached me in the fellowship hall. I didn't know if you would come. She was kind to Emma. He nodded. She blamed you until the end. I assumed she might. I stopped trying to change her mind. We stood beside a table covered with casseroles and pound cakes. The setting made the conversation feel strangely ordinary. I heard Emma got married, he said. Yes. She wouldn't invite me. That was her decision. I know. He looked toward Ryan. I've had time to think. I waited. I treated your stability as if it belonged to anyone who needed it. The sentence surprised me. It did not excuse anything, but it was specific enough to sound like understanding. Yes, I said, I thought because I loved you, I had a right to make decisions for the future. Yes. I also thought you would always fix things. That was convenient for you. It was. He looked down. Lila and I don't speak anymore. I'm sorry. Are you? I'm sorry when long relationships end. That doesn't mean I believe they should continue. He smiled faintly. You still sound like a contract. I take that as a compliment now. He looked at me. I am sorry about the limousine. For years, I had imagined hearing those words. My imagination, they changed something. Reality. They arrived in a church fellowship hall beside a bowl of potato salad. I believe you, I said. He seemed to expect more. There was no more. Forgiveness did not require returning to the place where the injury occurred. I'm glad you didn't come, he said, to the wedding. Yes. Why? Because I would have married you believing I had done nothing wrong. That was the most honest thing he ever gave me. Take care of yourself, Evan. You too. We walked in opposite directions. Thomas was waiting outside beside my car. He did not ask for every detail. How did it go? He said, better than expected. Do you want to talk? Later. He opened the passenger door, not because I could not open it, because he knew I liked the gesture. I paused before getting in years earlier. I had stood outside a hotel watching a limousine carry my fiancé away with another woman, believed the pain came from being left behind. Now I understood something different. I had not been abandoned on those steps, had been given a clear view of the life waiting for me, a life where someone else's emergencies would always arrive first, where my resources were shared but my voice was negotiable, where I would be expected to find my own transportation into decisions made without me. Canceling the wedding cost money. IT cost friendships. IT changed my daughter's family. IT exposed truths I would have preferred not to know, but marrying Evan would have cost more. Not all at once, a little at a time. A signature. A transfer. A compromised boundary. A promise to discuss it later, until one day, I might have looked around my own life and realized I was only a passenger. Thomas closed the door after I sat down, then he walked around the front of the car and took the driver's seat home, he asked, and looked through the windshield at the road ahead. Yes. My home, not a place another person granted me. Not a relationship maintained by surrender, a life I had chosen, rebuilt, and learned to enter without waiting for anyone else to send the car back years later. The engagement ring remained in a safe deposit box. I considered selling it, considered redesigning it, and in the end, I left it untouched, not because I still loved Evan, because it no longer carried enough power to require a decision. The ring had once represented a future I was afraid to lose. Now it was only an object. The important thing I took back was never the diamond. It was the hand that had worn it, a my hand, a my signature, my choice. And from that day forward, no one else decided where my life was going while I stood at the curb.
For more exciting content, please subscribe and follow us.